I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting of January 14th, 2020 to order. Would you please stand, and we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, first on the agenda is public comment. If anyone would like to address the Board of Selectmen, we just ask that you stand, state your name and your address. Mr. Arsenian.
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. At the last annual town meeting, you got an appropriation of $60,000 for a grant writer. That was the second year you got such an appropriation, and the first year there were no takers, and to date there are no takers, although speaking with Mitchell Vieira, he says that there's now a prospect that you may be able to get somebody. Earlier, we've been told that it wasn't an adequate sum of money, so you wonder why you put in for the same sum twice. I want to know what happened to the first $60,000, not for this fiscal year, but for the previous year. Did that revert to the general fund, free cash, or did that?
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and look, but my recollection was that money went to the cameras.
Right, that was the
For the
cameras
schools.
For the school. Yeah, right.
They went to the cameras for the
That was
schools.
the cameras for the school, because that was the only available money we could use for that.
I see. I think that inappropriate, but that's neither here nor there. My concern now is the same concern I had before you got the first $60,000, which is that the board needs a policy of how you're going to deal with the grants, supposing the grant writer is successful, when the timeline for the grants doesn't allow you to go to a town meeting for matching funds, the grants that require matching funds. And I believe it's a legit question. You talk about transparency, you wish
Yes,
people.
yes, okay.
So my request to you, the same as 2 years, not quite 2 years ago, is that you come up with a policy on how you're going to deal with the grants that require the matching funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we, since we're on the grant writer topic, is there any update?
So
I
there are
understand we have
currently
some applicants.
There are currently 3 names. 2 of them will be forwarded for interviews.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then,
We'll see what comes from that.
okay. And will it come in front of us, or is it your appointment?
It's a consultant position, so it's a purchase of service, so I would handle that.
You'll hear, but you'll announce it when.
Absolutely, absolutely. That'd
Yeah.
be similar to what we do with our community engagement consultant. It'd be a public face that we certainly want people to be familiar with and interact with.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Yes, Patricia Pierce, 35 Broadway. I'm here about the Seabrook nuclear reactor again. The Atomic Safety and Licensing Board is extending their decision to April on whether or not to allow the reactor to continue to operate.
Mm-hmm.
And no one is even interested that I know of, but I hope that you will express your concern to them before their decision is made. The reactor has 100 tons of fuel in the core at all times. It's changed every 2 years, so it's 30 years of operating. There are 1,500 tons of radioactive used fuel in cooling pools on site. And there are another 100 tons in the core, which is 16 billion curies in the core. And it's another 16 million billion. Excuse me, these numbers are too big for me. 16 billion curies in the core at any time, and also in each of the storage pools, times, I'm going to lose it now. My point is this: they have been discharging billions of curies every year now for 30 years, and there's a cumulative discharge, a cumulative emission The first day's discharge adds to the second day. On the third day, you have 3 days of initial discharge, plus you have 5 cumulative discharges. It goes so that the first 10 days you have an additional 45 discharges added to the initial discharges. These are photons out somewhere floating around in your yards, emitting photons. And it's not really knowable, but it's happened for 30 years and no one even knows or cares. The Board of Health couldn't be less interested. I presented to them last summer and no one has even ever
Okay.
listened.
Well, I understand that you put something in writing, is that correct?
Are you
Yeah,
talking?
Yes, yes, please.
That I put something in writing?
To the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, I've given them the same things I've
Okay.
given you, and
And
you're not
we-
interested either.
Well, please don't assume anything. Thank you. It's in the, will be in the packet next week so that we can read it.
Materials came after 2 today. They'll be in next week's.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to read the letter now, if I may.
I'd rather you not.
I'm sorry, this is my testimony. I won't be here for much longer. I would like to read the letter that I wrote you and
Yeah, well,
delivered
we'll-
today.
We'll get it next week in the packet and we can read it.
I'm sorry, I need to read the letter.
Read the letter.
This is to the chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Ronald Springer. It was emailed, Ray, concrete degradation at the Seabrook reactor due to cumulative emissions from 30 years of fission operations, resulting in 1,500 tons of spent fuel stored on the site in the cooling pools. Dear sir, I am concerned that the cumulative emissions from 30 years of fission operation has produced a highly dangerous circumstance wherein the concrete is recipient of thousands, if not millions, of curies of radiation. No concrete can withstand the impact of thousands or millions of curies emitted by 1,500 tons of fission over 30 years. Again, there are 16 billion curies in any one core. The original design life of atomic reactors was 20 years. Now the lifespan at Seabrook is being extended to 60 years. It's now 30 years they've been operating, despite the stressed conditions of the concrete. Any loss of coolant in storage pools or in the reactor core will result in serious, possibly out of control catastrophe. The concrete has been degrading for 10 years already, collapsing, crumbling, cracking. Allowing daily operation to continue is risking fatal accident, loss of life and property. The Fukushima loss of coolant has created a global disaster. Seabrook reactor failure would be equally tragic for New England and globally. Please use your authority wisely for the sake of limiting the damage to already contaminated lands and lives from 30 years of dispersal of effluent. There is no law requiring persons to submit to toxic poisoning by fission sources. Please act on behalf of the public safety and survival. Please close the reactor before the tragedy. I also have a letter asking for research. I appeared before the Gloucester Board of Health last week. They have this information and they are going to, I hope, begin the research into proving the contamination. I'd also like to quote critical mass theory, which in any system, when there's a breakdown point, when there's too much of something, continuous discharge and dispersal of contaminants and toxins, permanent toxins that do not degrade or dissipate, but continue to emit permanent cumulative presence in the natural environment, including interference with chlorophyll and photosynthesis. Radioactive discharge kills chlorophyll. You get trees dying, you get leaf size changing. I have research from Scotland that shows that the whole process of plant biology is totally destroyed by radioactive, and you get dead forests, dead trees.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up in 1 minute, please. as we need to move on.
Well, we are into 16 billion curies in the core times 15 cycles. That's 240 billion curies that Seabrook has emitted in the last 30 years. It's all around here. It's everywhere. And it will not quit emitting, or it's here forever. It's permanent. And it's in your backyard, in everyone's backyard. And I hope that you will protest to the NRC that you do not want the plant to continue to contaminate your children and your property and the environment. I think this has been such a casual, careless, and I think because you're not informed. And I hope that now that you're informed, you will take action and protest to the NRC. You do not want the reactor to continue to discharge, to operate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and again, that letter will be in our packet for next week, so all of us will be able to read it. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Before we go on to a recognition, I want to say for the record how much we appreciated our public safety and school department during a recent tragedy that affected our middle school a week ago Monday. The response by the police department and EMS and the fire department and the school department was exceptional. Thank God it wasn't a complete tragedy. My understanding is that the young girl has been released from the hospital, which is wonderful news. But Rockport showed its true colors, and hats off to the school administration for having, and the school committee for having the wherewithal to hire or appoint a resource officer who was there within minutes. And the police were there within 5 minutes, and it was really something. And Mitch, thank you for your coordination from Town Hall and all the updates. And it could have been a lot worse, and thank God it wasn't. So, anyone?
No,
No,
I
all set.
echo those sentiments.
Okay, thank you.
I just think especially the police did an amazing job, and you never want to see a tragedy like this happen, but it happened in between a shift change, which put a whole lot more officers on the street, and everybody was there, and nobody hesitated. Everybody jumped to the occasion. So the police department did an absolutely amazing job.
Yeah. And you don't think that this could happen in a small town like Rockport, but we're not immune to violence, and that's why they practice these things, the lockdowns and the Alice, and the police department are constantly, and the fire department and EMS are constantly training, so that, God forbid, a situation like that comes about. Obviously, they rose to the occasion, so thank you. I know Rob might want to, Rob Lebo.
He may pop his head in at some point in between meetings.
And we can
Yeah.
shift
The board can
over.
certainly
There was one other thing that I think should be noted. When we had the meeting at the auditorium a couple nights after, I went up to the chief and I asked him a question. I said, "What would you do differently now that you have the benefit of hindsight?" And his answer was very encouraging. Is that there were a couple of small, maybe procedural things, but overall their response and the way they handled it was right on par of where it should have been. And I say that because every situation you can plan for things. And because I asked him, would this have qualified as an Alice situation? He said no, and he elaborated on the reasons why it shouldn't have been an Alice situation. But it's the preparedness of the school department, of the nurses, and of the police department that really made this an event like this easier to take, I guess is the best way to put it.
And it happened at 7:30 in the morning, and
Yep.
so there was, people were arriving. The elementary school had not, arrived for their start of the day. So there was some. It was very. The timing was, if it had to happen, was.
And I think, too, the addition of the cameras and the locking of the doors and the security they have at the school now with badges, and all of those are important steps, and all of their incident training and the joint incident command between the police and the town administration and all of that really worked well, and that's what drills are for. and you hope nothing ever happens, but you practice and practice, and some of that sticks, and it did this time. And they'll have an after-action report that we will see, and
Sure.
and we'll learn things from that, which is always important.
I think one of the things that really stands out to me with respect, going back to the cameras, is that at the time when the cameras were being talked about, it was said, you know, it's a small town, nothing really happens, why do we have to spend this money? And I heard that from more than one person. This is an incident, unfortunately, that proves that anything can happen in any town at any time. And for us to protect our children in our schools there can be no greater thing that we're charged with. So I'm very happy with the way the cameras were installed. They didn't have a big bearing on this incident itself, but all these safety measures matter.
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, an additional note, we were fortunate as well to have 4 of our ambulance personnel on scene, responding to
Absolutely.
take charge with ALS. Another very critical function, getting the injured child out of the building.
Yep.
So we're thankful for them, in addition to our police and
Yep.
and the schools.
Right.
Absolutely.
I asked Officer Wesley at that meeting too, how did you feel about this? Are you okay with this? He said, "Hey, did you handle it?" He says, I didn't even have a chance to get to her because he was right there, but there was a nurse right there on top of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, they did a great job.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, to the big
Let's go to letter E, which is a certificate of appreciation for Board of Health member Russell Sanfield. So, Russ has spent 33 years on dedicated service to the Board of Health, starting in 1987.
I was 16 years old.
Yeah. But 1987, that was 33 years ago. So, thank you for your service to the town, to the Board of Health. I know you're going to be sorely missed, especially by Elizabeth Murphy right next to you, keeping her in line. You guys are like the polar opposites of each other, you know, politically, and you know. So, but I know she has great respect for you, and she'll miss you as well. But I'd like to read into the record and present this to, and then certainly other members, I'd like to hear from them as well. But the Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen presents a certificate of appreciation to Dr. Russell Sanfield for 33 years of dedicated public service as a member of the Rockport Board of Health, signed January 14th, 2020. Paul F. Murphy, Chairman, Ruth George, Denise Donnelly, and Donald J. Campbell. Congratulations. Come on up and... Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to hug you.
Yeah.
We can't make it around 35?
Oh, you already should. That's yours. Frame it.
Do that.
Yeah, that would be great
Come
for
on.
the board.
Let's do that. Why don't we come on here?
Actually, you know what, maybe you wanna go in and I'll take it.
Come on, Sid.
This is Russ's. No.
Sid, Jimmy's gotta be here.
Don't get my balls fun.
One more.
Thank you.
Now one with the board. Now one with the board. Get up there, Ron, you're with them.
Yep. Come on. No, Ruth, you get into it. Where are you going?
That's
Toby, you want to get in?
There we go. Okay. You can jump in on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Now we are going to have an interview with Ronald Newman, a newest member of the soon-to-be Board of Health. If you'd like to join us
Have a seat
over there. Is there a motion?
There is. I move to nominate Ronald Newman to the Board of Health for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Welcome.
Thank you.
Could you, I always ask this question, but could you bring your resume, we've seen it and so forth, kind of to life, where have you been, what brings you to Rockport, and particularly the Board of Health position?
Yeah, I've lived on the North Shore since the early 80s and practiced medicine on the North Shore since then. Initially, I was a primary care physician in Peabody, and for the latter part of my career became a hospitalist at Beverly and Addison Gilbert hospitals. I worked full-time until about 2 years ago and look for a change, and began to work as an addiction medicine physician part-time at Gloucester Family Health Center. I moved from Hamilton, actually, to Rockport about 5 years ago, my wife and I. We were empty nesters at that point, and so looked to downsize and looked to find a place where we could spend the future. And this seemed to be a very pleasant place to spend these years. We've been here quite a bit over the years when we lived elsewhere on the North Shore. I am sort of semi-retired now, but find myself pretty busy. I still am on a number of committees at the hospitals. I'm the chairman of the pharmacy committee and have been for about 10 years, and keep doing it probably until they kick me out. I am the current president of the Essex South District of the Mass Medical Society. I'm on the board at my synagogue in Gloucester. But despite all that, I didn't really feel I was getting to know Rockport very well. You know, moving here, I can tell from my interactions with people in this room that some people were born here, grown up with everybody else here, and it's a little bit hard to feel this, feel part of the community and when you come later in life. So I was thinking of what I could do to sort of get to know the town a little bit better, and maybe get integrated, when by coincidence, Ruth George kind of drove up and grabbed me when I was walking my dog one day and,
Yeah.
and suggested that there might be an opening in the Board of Health, and that sort of fit in with what I was thinking about anyway. So I've already attended several meetings and getting to know the people on the board, and very impressed with the way things operate there, and I would welcome the opportunity to join them.
Great. Any questions from anyone?
No, I think you'll be a great fit. I mean, I worked with them as a hospitalist at the hospital, and we need some medical people on the board. Not all medical people, but it's good to have that, especially in light of the hepatitis outbreak and thinking about labs and quarantines and those kind of things. And, he was looking for something to do for his town and was a perfect
He
catch.
was walking his dog, Ruth.
Well, I had already mentioned it. We had already
It's a
mentioned
soft
his.
sell.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. I had to go around the block twice to catch up to him. Darted down Pools Lane, but I pulled right up. And the rest is history.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward.
Yeah, thank you.
It's always a great sacrifice, and thank you for doing that. It's, when people step up, it's the contributions that you make are immense to the town, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
And he was presented with a hat by Russ Sandfield that passed on his Board of Health hat to him already at the meeting.
Beautiful.
Sid's going to put you on the Thatcher Island Committee pretty soon, too. Watch out.
Okay.
Oh, welcome.
You've heard anyone else? You've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ron.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick note regarding Dr. Newman. So he's filling the remainder of Dr. Sandfield's term, which ends this coming June. Typically, he'd need to come back for an interview, but since we're at the less than 6-month point, barring any objections from the board, we won't have him come back again for the the July 1st renewals. We'll simply roll forward from there if that's okay
Yeah.
with the board.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
great.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are you going?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Before we go to the consent agenda, our superintendent of schools, Rob Lebo, is here. He would like to address the Board of Selectmen and public comment.
I just wanted to make a public statement. As everybody knows, we had our worst nightmare happen last week, and the response of the town emergency personnel, the town administrator, the community itself was just beyond what we would ever have known we would have gotten and received, and it was just so heartwarming to see that. We called the police within 10 minutes. There was all the resources we needed. The shifts changing over so that folks that had been on all night were there, and they're with us all day. Mitch stayed with us all day. John Horvath stayed with us all day. Mark Smink stayed with us all day. And it's just so heartwarming to have seen that level of response for our community in need at the time. Just on a very positive note, the young lady came back to school today and was there for the last
Great.
period of the day.
That's
So
awesome.
Great,
how
wonderful.
can you
I'm
ask
sorry, I
for
didn't hear
any-
the last
How
part.
can you ask for anything better than that?
She came back today, did you say?
I
Okay.
came back for the first time today, spent the last period in math class,
Wonderful.
and will phase back into school. But the kinds of things we've done to prepare over the last few years, cameras, which were controversial, were essential in that. A school resource officer being on site to be able to know who, what, when, where, how, made
Right.
that situation go as good as it possibly could be expected for the cards we were dealt. I'm walking down the hall, I call Gloucester's superintendent, who there's always friction between towns and school choice and all this kind of thing. You know, can you send counselors? We had 5 of their counselors with us within a half an hour, one of which stayed us the entire week, who had their own caseload at Gloucester High School.
Sure.
So I just wanted to say publicly that superintendent of schools, I could not have expected, well, I could have expected, the outpouring of help in our time of need as a community was just beyond special. So I just want to make sure I got that out.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for
And,
everything.
yeah, and thank you to you.
I will tell you, working in Saugus, I have had more teachers and superintendents, assistant superintendents, and people from out of town, you know, since the tragedy happened, asking how the town is the town, and, you know, it was really heartwarming to know that there are so many people that don't even know anything about Rockport, or couldn't find from Gloucester, you know, they don't know where Rockport is. We're very concerned, and, you know, a lot of prayers were sent for us, and as I think the word was saying, it is heartwarming, so, thank you, Rob.
Talk about dark times. That was the darkest day in 42 years that I've been in education, and today, at the end of the day, was
the
the brightest
best.
day
Yeah.
in 42 years in education.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for all
To
you do.
everyone on your staff.
Okay, let's go to the consent agenda.
So, we can't do the consent agenda because I have to abstain from approving the minutes. I wasn't at that meeting.
Oh, okay.
But we have 3. Is there somebody missing?
So the board could,
I don't
If
know
it
how that,
chooses
I don't
to-
remember how that works.
Sure, so
It's 3 out of 5.
one member just needs to ask, which you've just done in this case, to hold that particular item.
Right,
So the motion as written can proceed, and
okay.
then the board would just go back and do an individual motion for the minutes
Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
So, is there a motion? Motion.
I move that the board approve all non-held items on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
There you go. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. Excellent.
Now, there could be, Mr. Chair, if there are a majority present for those minutes, you can move to approve the minutes
Okay,
for that
is there
particular date.
approval of minutes of December 18th, 2019? Is there a motion?
So moved?
Moves, the motion has been made and seconded. Is any further discussion?
Hasn't
I'll
been-
second it.
You
I'll
second it?
Sorry.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0.
Abstained.
And one, oh, I'm sorry, passes
Okay.
3 with 1 abstention. Very good. 103 Long Beach lease, is there a motion there?
We just did that.
Oh, we just did that, I'm sorry. Open warrant for annual town meeting. Oh, let's do, I'm sorry, I jumped out. Selectmen and town administrators update and liaison reports. Does anyone, let's start with Mitch. Do you have anything, Mitch, for the TA report?
Mr. Chair, so we've had certainly busy last week, certainly, we've touched on that already. Outside of that, Senator Tarn, Representative Ferrante were in town 2 weeks ago now at this point. The primary reason for that was for the Tyler Silva House, which I'll defer to Selectman George to speak on. They also broached the topics of the Nugent Stretch sidewalks and the Evansfield ramps. So they have asked to come in and speak with the board again. They're due for their update, and they've specifically requested that. So when I speak with the chair and vice chair after the meeting, we'll look to book them for
Schedule
that.
it?
Yes, they've requested
Is there any
that.
update on either, anything significant or on either project?
There's the Tyler Silva House, and then there's this.
I can speak to Nugent Stretch, but Ruth, if you want to go first, go right ahead.
Yep. Do you want to finish your stuff?
No, that's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
That's good timing. to jump in.
So we met with them regarding the Tyler Silver House. As you know, the property is owned by the Hollitt Point and the state, and they have plans to demolish the house over there. I'm the liaison to the CPC, and we brought it up, or I brought it up, and they brought it up and wrote a letter. And we're concerned that we would like to try to keep it for affordable housing. It's a beautiful old house. So we met with them, and I brought that up. We discussed it at length. So we're in the process of going to look at the house internally and see if it could be used. They want it off the site. My hope is that it is appropriate, that it could be moved. It could be moved to a Rockport lot where we could use it as affordable housing. And-
What year was it built, do you know?
1892 or something like that, in the late 1800s.
1890s, I think.
It's already been moved once. It was down by the quarry, and it was moved up to where it is now. So it has been moved. But we need to check the viability of moving it again, and can it be renovated? They did a whole big stack of papers, this big, of assessing it and of what it would take to get it back up. My thought was that if we could do it as a two-family, we could put a deed restriction on it and start using it as an affordable housing units for 2 of them in Rockport. And it would be the best of both worlds to try to save a historic building and use it for affordable housing. And I would, CPC deadline is February 3rd, and I would look to put in a application for historic preservation and affordable housing for that, if we deem it is appropriate to do that with that property. But I wanted to make sure that we looked at every option for that property before we just let them, because the state owns it. And Bruce and Margaret were very helpful at the meeting. But to be able to really say to the public, we've looked at it, is it viable, is it not, is it something we can take on?
Are there any time constrictions, not for town time, but for funding, but from the people that own it, the state, the federal government? Are they putting anything on that to restrict it as far as you have to have it out by a certain date?
They would like to have it out in a while because it's a process of revitalizing the park and doing renovations there. So it is one of the key steps. But we did discuss that they could go about doing other projects, the parking area and other things before. That's not really standing in their way right now. So we do have some time to work on it. We told them we would get back to them in a month after we've looked at it. We're going to go with the building inspector and the director of DPW and look at it this week.
Are there any potential sites in Rockport?
We're just starting to think about it now.
Yeah.
But there are potentials.
There is a potential
Okay,
site.
good. We don't need to know.
Yeah,
But
but there are potential lots in town that we're thinking of that, you know, and maybe we could do something like that. I don't know. It's all up in the air. It's all really dependent on if it is sturdy enough and able to be moved.
Mhm.
If not, maybe we would look at seeing if we could maybe even reproduce it in a modular capacity. That way we would have it sort of historically correct, but it wouldn't be the same house. I mean, I have to say the pictures of it are beautiful. It has gorgeous stained glass windows. The inside of it has beautiful staircases and moldings, and it's a beautiful old house. But again, it hasn't been lived in for 5 to 6 years. They have had electricity, they have had heat, but it has some water damage in the cellar and things like that. So we really have to look at it. But I wanted people to know that it's not one of those things that is just a closed chapter, that they own it, they're gonna tear it down.
Right.
We wanted, the CPC and me as the selectman's liaison to CPC, wanted to really look into it and make sure that we did it justice, to make sure we looked and made, every stone was unturned to make sure if we could use it or not.
If it doesn't work for affordable housing, which I hope it does, but if it doesn't, are you considering just getting somebody and donating it to them, or them taking it, say, for $1 and having them put it on a lot? That way at least the house lives on.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be very difficult in that it's a big, huge procurement issue for the state of Massachusetts, and it goes through multiple chains of commands. It needs to be out and public bid, all kinds of public things, and it's, Bruce and Margaret both said it would take a very, very long time, and probably wouldn't be something that they would want to do.
So it doesn't sound viable.
When we look at what general municipal purposes we may have, the only one would truly be affordable housing for that.
What, just off the top of my head, how much do you think it would cost to go from one site to another?
No
Can we
idea.
talk?
We haven't
No
found that
idea.
out yet.
That has to be
The first
obviously-
step is to get into it and have the building inspector look at it. As Selectman George indicated, it's been moved once.
Yeah.
It was moved up from the quarry. So the question is, can it handle a second one? And it has some other remediation items. There's a list of remediation items that would need to happen with it. So still lot of legwork to do
Yeah.
on that.
Sounds exciting, though.
Yeah.
Good. Good. All right, anything else?
Do you want me to-
yes.
I'll take the News and Stretch side. So a while ago, and I mean, over the past, since I've lived here, pretty much, driving home on News and Stretch, you see people walking there all the time, and it's a hazard, and it's an accident waiting to happen. So I decided to embark on an endeavor with Bruce and Ann to see what it would be like. Was it even possible to put sidewalks on Nugent Stretch, part of it, one side, the other side, whatever it happens to be. And we met here with representatives for the Department of Transportation, and it was decided that they would do the surveying and kind of the preliminary stuff to see if it would even work. I know before Peter Beecham's passing, him and I were talking quite a bit about this. And Peter, my focus was on the sidewalks. Peter's was on the trails and how they connected through. He liked all that
And
side.
Bikes, I think you wanted bikes, too.
Your bikes and such, exactly. So with Bruce and Ann's help, they found some funding to pay for a survey to see if it's even a viable project. Right now, none of the money being expended is our money, though I should say it is our money because everything from the government is our money to begin with. However, it's not Rockport funds that are being used for this. Once that survey is done, we won't see the results for that. I got an email about 3 days ago. Once those results come in about 2 months, then we start looking. If they determine that, okay, it looks like we have something that we can work with, then you start looking at the other aspects. Where does the sidewalk go? What about the drainage? What about lighting? What about access? All the different things that are going to come with it. There's vernal pools down there. There's environmental concerns. There's a host of issues that have to be looked at. But the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and that's what this first step is. So that's what we're looking to do. There's no guarantee that it's going to happen, But I'm very, very appreciative of Bruce Tarr and Ann Margaret's assistance on this. They see it as important, a public safety issue, it is a public access issue. So, no commitments have been made. When it comes time to bring it before the board for whether it's voting or whatever aspects involves the full board, obviously that will be done. I will do my best to inform not only the board, but obviously everybody in town. I did put something up because when they start putting orange stakes in the ground and going down, people start asking questions. So I wanted to dispel any myths and rumors before it took on that twist that Rockport stuff can usually take on. So I posted, and every comment on there, I think with the exception of maybe one or two, was absolutely positive. There were, right now it's up to about 250 people who are engaged on it. And people are actually expanding on what it is, and I'm trying to kind of rein it in. I want to keep it simple for a little bit, and then we can figure out if it's even viable. But they want to put bike paths in and trail, and let's wait and see what happens first, and then we'll go from there.
Where is it supposed to end? At
That's
Rockport Road?
we have it would my assumption is, and again, if you know where obviously know where the VFW is, and then you have the Welcome to Rockport sign right there.
It wouldn't go all the way to there, would it?
Yeah, the idea is to connect it right there, and then
Oh, take down the, okay, I see what you're saying.
yeah, so connect the side, to match the sidewalks up there, know what side of the road it is, whether it's halfway down one side and then halfway up the other side, or all the way up, I don't know. You know, there's been no firm design put forward, there's been no design put forward.
Yep.
So that's where it stands, but it's very encouraging. So, if anybody has questions, obviously, they can always answer.
So what are they doing exactly? Just trying to measure
It's
the margins?
The first part that has to be done is they have to find, and you'd think it would be easy, they have to find the center line of the road, of where the property line is and where the center line is. So that's one of the aspects of what they're doing, is finding the center line. That's why you see all those orange stakes out there. So they have to map it all and know what they have, so then they can plan for drainage and lighting and all the other things that go along with it.
Good. All right, anyone else for comments?
Yeah.
After Denise.
Oh, go ahead, Don.
No, I can wait, Denise, go ahead.
I don't know if I can talk. I've attended a number of Conservation Commission meetings as the liaison. Quite a bit of conversation about the boardwalks, and also conversation about an individual who wants to build a house right in oh my God, I'm forgetting. What's that? Gull Cove Lane. But it's right in a protected area, and it's quite,
below.
down below. It's quite concerning. The Conservation Commission has extended the hearing a couple of times. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But I think it would set a really concerning precedent for Rockport to start development in, and I'm forgetting the technical term because I'm a little addled at the moment with this cold, but the ocean, thank you, coastal bank. The coastal bank, if we start developing in the coastal bank, it's just not going to be helpful for us as we try to determine how we're going to deal with climate change. So we'll see what happens.
Yes.
If you're concerned about the coastal bank, there are no quote-unquote performance standards. Performance standards are the resources you're going to protect with the regulations. And without performance standards, the regulations are not enforceable. There aren't any in the state regulations, which is their fault. There aren't any in the local regulations, and that's something that we could put right. The Conservation Commission could. The state's doing is beyond us.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Yeah, I do. I back in November, I had asked that, you know, we have some weighty things that are coming up that need to be addressed, some pretty substantial issues. And I asked that 2 issues in particular be scheduled, and to date, they have not been scheduled.
We're going to be scheduling today.
I understand, but this is my concern is that I was told this back in November as well. So I'm urging the chair and the vice chair to schedule the items that need to be done, because as much as I love having people appointed to boards and give commendations, we have major issues facing Rockport and we need to address them. And if we don't, we're negligent in our responsibility. So I would just ask, I would implore you to get these things scheduled. Let's not put them off. I don't want to kick a can down the road. There are going to be some tough issues we have to face, whether they're monetary or they're policy issues or
Yep.
whatever they happen to be.
What
So-
two are you
So-
implying?
So the two I want
Railroad?
is fuel, I want the fueling station on the agenda, and Long Beach. Long Beach, we have, though it seems like it's a ways out, it's really not. Because there's a lot of legwork that has to be done, and if we don't get started now, we're gonna find ourselves in a very tenuous position that is not gonna help us.
Yep.
And is not gonna be in the best interest of the people that don't live there and the people that do live there. So I just would ask that we get going.
You're talking about Long Beach and the renewal of the police.
Long Beach in general, really.
Okay.
I mean, I won't even break it down to one specific issue, but I will say that obviously the renewal's coming up. What we do, we had one meeting, an executive yes.
Yeah, I would just be
I'm not
cognizant beyond
talking
that.
about anything in particular. We had one executive session where we talked about things in a general sense. We need to now further that conversation.
What are we
So-
in, year 7 of 10? Of a 10-year lease?
I think it is.
We're
2023.
2023.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Seven.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you,
So-
Toby.
If we're talking about things we want on the agenda, if I may, I'm very eager to see us move forward with the tree policy, and I know Mitch and I spoke about this. It's not a small issue, it's about carbon sequestration, and I've been involved on an ongoing basis with the climate action group that was formed in Gloucester with all of Cape Ann. And this is Rockport's effort to do something about carbon sequestration and try to replace some of the many trees that we've lost over the past few years. So I feel that's equally important. Would like to ask that that gets
So that
taken
one's
up.
tree
Tree
restoration?
policy.
It's on the
It's on the
list of
list.
pending items that
Yep.
I have for when the
Right,
three of
well,
us
we're going to
spoke.
have, because I know you have to leave by 8 o'clock, we're going to have a conference call.
Either right after this or
But those
tomorrow
two
morning
items will,
to-
Long Beach and the fuel station.
Yep.
We'll get those on.
What about the tree policy?
tree.
And the
And tree,
tree,
and
yeah,
tree.
and tree.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
We'll make sure those are
And we
on.
need the train, the keel list to come
I have
back in.
I have the master list of pending items
Okay.
left out.
Yep.
There's 5 that are flagged that need
Let's attack
timely attention.
Let's get on them, let's get going.
So,
Also, I just wanted to say that we did have the closing of the submittal for the owner's project manager today, and we have 2 applications. Our next meeting is next Wednesday at 10 a.m., and we've all gotten our copies. We'll be looking at those and discussing that, and working on that.
DPW facility.
Oh,
DPW
Yes.
facility.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
DPW
I
facility,
also
I'm sorry.
can't hear
Yep.
anything.
And also CIPC, we've gone through every town, every group that has submitted requests, except for the DPW, and we'll be meeting with them on Wednesday to talk about that. Not Wednesday.
Friday.
Friday, from 9 to 12.
I
Okay.
know that that's all in the works. I know the library basement is in really bad shape. I'm
We
sure
have talked that,
you've
we've
talked that
talked,
through.
Cindy
so
has come in and talked to us
good,
about that.
okay, yeah.
Yep.
The engineering study, to my knowledge, is underway
Oh, good.
Yeah.
for it.
okay.
I know that they need to get that wrapped up, and then we
Okay.
can look at some remediation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Yep,
Because our whole history is down there.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We've done some interim steps. We worked with the library to purchase one of those heavy-duty floor air conditioners that vents out, just to
Good,
try to
okay.
Yep.
Get
keep
some of the
the
moisture.
humidity out, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I do have one other item. Sure. The board is set.
Go right ahead.
I had it on the list for last week, which was prior to a submission deadline for something. But we went ahead and submitted based on previous for the board. So regarding the old firehouse trust, so the board's previous consensus was that the board would be looking to retain that and save it. That was the consensus the board reached at a previous meeting with the Building Study Committee. So the Building Study Committee and the Cultural District, namely Monica and Michelle, went through and submitted some preliminary applications to the Mass Cultural Council, their Facilities Fund. I believe something was submitted today to CPC as an administrative request, which is $10,000 or less, I believe. the ball is rolling on that facility. So the Building Study Committee has been very consistent in their message that it was getting the DPW facilities done, and now it's turning to some of these other facilities. So there were particular deadlines that needed to be hit. So all positive for that facility. Nothing's in stone. There's nothing that's been awarded, but everything has been submitted. Monica and Michelle did an excellent job on the application. It was fantastic. It was in 48 hours?
About 6.
Oh, okay. It's about 6.
No, actually, yeah, over the course of 48 hours.
Yeah, it was excellent work, and we certainly hope that that's a good way for us to start to move forward on it. And as was discussed in that meeting, the intent would be to utilize MCC funds and CPC funds down the road, and not general fund revenue for it. So moving forward
Thank
on
you,
that, so the
Monica.
board's aware.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Michelle.
And all the above. Okay. So we'll get that going on and get that stuff scheduled as needed. Action list. Is there a motion to open the warrant for the annual town meeting?
There is. I move that the selectmen open the April 4, 2020 annual town meeting warrant.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. An acceptance of a gift of art.
I move that the board gratefully accept a gift of art from Peter Solian entitled View from the Old First Parish Burying Grounds by Ann Fisk to be added to the town art collection.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Seconded?
Any further discussion? Ann Fisk was a former selectman, second woman ever elected to the Board of Selectmen, behind a woman named, her last name in the 50s was Savage. Marie Savage, I think it was. And she was the second one. She was on about 2 or 3 terms. And she was head of the Rockport Art Association and helped with the pageant. But she painted. You want to show it off? What a beautiful painting.
Point it towards the camera, too, so people can see it. I
The
know
old
it's kinda
Sea
weird.
Scout Hall.
Right? There you go.
The old Sea Scout Hall.
Vanna White, there you go.
Yes, and before that, the fire station.
Yes.
First fire station in Rockport.
We used to have Girl Scouts there.
Nice.
It sounds like you had received information about.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Ann Fisk.
Yes.
She was a pretty extraordinary person,
Yep.
both as a town leader and as an artist, executive director of the Rockport Art Association. I think she started the pageant, actually.
I think she did. She was one of the beginning
No,
ones.
she couldn't have,
didn't
because
s-
it's 7.
yeah.
Well,
I don't
it's
think
like
she
it says
started. it.
74.
She was one of the,
Very
yeah.
instrumental.
Yeah.
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 Could have, yeah,
Didn't she do the
74.
book barn?
Yeah, she did the book
Book
barn.
barn at the transfer station?
Yep, and started
Yep.
the recycling program.
Yep.
for paper
When it was-
and the
Wasn't fashionable to,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, she was a
think
nice lady.
She did some sculpture that's over the doors to Town Hall, Twin Lights sculpture.
Yeah, the Twin Lights, wow.
Yeah.
Yep, and helped to organize and the town art collection in its early years. So she's
Yeah.
Wow.
played a big role in all different aspects of the town. And this particular painting is one that apparently she liked very much, and had sold it, or was in an auction, came up in an auction, and she wanted to buy it back to donate to the town. And another bidder outbid her for it, Peter Solian, who promised her that he would one day give it to the town and fulfill her wishes. And that someday is now, 20 some odd years later. And he came to us a month or so ago to donate the painting. It is currently, or it was hanging, or will be hanging in the office of the building inspector. And I have to say, it is perfect in the location. Bright blue door, bright blue painting. It was made for the spot.
That's great.
So we're very
Wonderful.
fortunate to have
It's
this
beautiful.
in our collection.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Monica.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Awesome.
Monica.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanna.
Okay, Vanna White, yeah. Unanticipated business or announcements?
So did you accept?
Yes.
Yes.
Did we vote on that?
Oh,
No.
no,
I don't think we
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. Yes, sir.
Please announce the Government and Bylaw Committee tomorrow, I believe at 2. Is it not here in this room?
Is it Mitch?
It
is 2 o'clock in this room.
2 o'clock in this room, Government and Bylaw Committee. Very good.
Oh, I have,
Anyone else have?
I
any?
have the warrants to
Oh, yes.
say. Okay. Select Person George signed the payroll warrant number 23 totaling $550,198.40, and expense warrant 23 totaling $1,868,622.76 on December 4th, 2019. Selectman George signed the payroll warrant 24 totaling $267,580.86, and expense warrant 24 totaling $342,604.68 on December 10th, 2019. Select Person George signed the payroll warrant 25 totaling $610,148.07, and expense warrant 25 totaling $692,811.61 on December 18th, 2019. Select Person George signed the payroll warrant number 20 totaling $112,150.95, and expense warrant 20 totaling $230,504.12 on November 13th, 2019. Select Person George signed the payroll warrant 21 totaling $586,671.63, and expense warrant 21 totaling $140,981.60 on November 19th, 2019. Select Person George signed the payroll warrant number 22 totaling $114,405.02, and expense warrant 22 totaling $443,865.84 on November 26, 2019. And Selectman George signed the payroll warrant number 26 totaling $117,801.68, and expense warrant 26 totaling $354,951.75 on December 24th, 2019. And finally, Selectman George signed the payroll warrant number 27 totaling $562,599.65, and expense warrant 27 totaling $129,553.99 on December 31st, 2019.
You mind repeating that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements or business? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, 0. The motion passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone.